In the 1980 Winter Olympics held at Lake Placid, New York, the U.S. defeated the Soviet Union to advance to the gold medal game. This miracle on ice moment ended with the U.S. winning the gold medal. However, this thrill of victory for U.S. athletes would soon become an agony of defeat the following summer. In 1980, the United States communicated their displeasure with the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan by boycotting the Summer Olympic Games in Moscow. National and international support of the U.S. led boycott varied, and the tactic was ultimately unsuccessful in pressuring the Soviet Union to withdraw its troops from Afghanistan. The Soviet Union reacted by leading a communist bloc boycott of the 1984 Summer Olympic Games held in Los Angeles. The ultimate goal of the Olympics was to cultivate humans through sport and to contribute to world peace. So when the Soviet Union started invading Afghanistan, the US felt that they were dishonoring their contribution to world peace. This was the first time the US had boycotted any Olympics, so for us to consider it after just beating the Soviets in hockey at the Winter Olympics, or known as the Miracle on Ice, was considered a dark time. The Olympic Games had always gone as planned, and when it went off the grid, the Games felt like they would never be the same again. Afterward, they would have to make a no politics rule to make the Games, just sports. Tensions were escalating between the Soviet Union and the US. The United States wanted to communicate to the Soviet Union that their involvement in Afghanistan was unwanted, and when the Olympic Games were on their way, the topic of a boycott came up. The United States thought that it would be a very impactful way to communicate with the Soviet Union to leave Afghanistan. The United States then communicated to the Soviet Union on November 3rd, 1979, that they had 1 month, 3 weeks, and 1 day to leave Afghanistan, or till December 24th, 1979. Otherwise, the U.S. would boycott the 1980 Olympics hosted in Moscow. In a statement made after the invasion, President Carter approached the Soviet Union again, specifically Premier Leonid Brezhnev, and decried the invasion as an intended effort by a powerful disbelieving government so they could conquer the independent Islamic people. The invasion threatened to revive the Cold War and make things worse with the Soviets, which during the late 1970s had appeared to experience a temporary thaw. Carter communicated with the Russians that his perspective of them has changed dramatically since the beginning of his term as president. In addition to the boycott, Carter increased pressure on the Soviets to abandon the war in Afghanistan. He attempted to make a trade restriction on two U.S. goods that the Soviets desperately needed: grain and information technology. Carter called on the UN, or known as the United Nations, to provide military equipment, food, and other assistance to help Afghanistan's neighbors, especially Iran and Pakistan, to fend off further Soviet encroachment in their countries and territories. The act got a lot of negative publicity despite passing the House and Senate quite easily. It also revived the Cold War and increased the tension between the US and Soviet Union, and did not stop the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, which lasted until 1989. Bob Matias, a gold medalist who became a four-term congressman from California and who also was the director of the Olympic Training Center, feared the Olympics were doomed. "We're going to fight to the end. We're fighting for the life of the Olympic Games. It's almost too late, I'm afraid it might be," Bob Matias stated. "Yesterday, I was on a sunny track in Santa Barbara. Today, I'm being exposed to the iron realities of the world," Jane Frederick, a pentathlete, thought to herself. American gymnast Bart Connor, who was planning to compete in the boycott, explains how he feels about the boycott.
That we're not going to the Olympics hasn't really deterred my training. I've made sure that I think through this Olympic Games and hope to prepare for another one, so it hasn't affected me too much. But I know for some of the other athletes, it's been very difficult to train for this, knowing that we will not be going to the Olympic Games.
Russia ended up winning the most gold medals in the 1980 Summer Olympics. The controversial American boycott of the 1980 Olympics in Moscow showed that any short-term approval for such a decision that the president makes is likely to lead to long-term unpopularity among the public. It shows that sometimes you can communicate what you thought was right, while it turns out wrong. "I may forgive, but never forget," says Craig Version, a victim of the 1980 Olympics. That goes to show that many athletes must still not be happy about their shot at winning the Olympics ruined. Another thing that it shows is resentment among athletes and our allies, and has no effect upon any possible foreign policy objective sought, as the evidence will show. Carter's plan to communicate with Russia failed and showed that foreign politics should not affect the public. Dropping the torch understanding of the 1980 U.S. Olympic boycott, the boycott also caused the Soviet Union to boycott the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles by the Soviet Union, Bulgaria, East Germany, Mongolia, Vietnam, Laos, Czechoslovakia, and Afghanistan. Based upon how badly Carter handled the hostage crisis and the USSR invasion of Afghanistan, he ended up losing to Republican candidate Ronald Reagan. Previous boycotts included the 1956 boycott of the Melbourne Games by Spain, Netherlands, Switzerland, and Cambodia because of the Soviet Union's participation. In 1964, North Korea, China, and Indonesia boycotted the Games because the IOC, or known as the International Olympic Committee, refused to allow athletes who competed in the rival games of the new emerging forces in Jakarta the year before, and in the 1980 Winter Games Taiwan boycotted because the IOC recognized the PRC, or known as the People's Republic of China, as China and asked Taiwan to compete under the name Chinese Taipei. In conclusion, boycotts can be crucial to communicating in several different ways. For example, the 1980 boycott affected the outcome of future events like the 1984 Olympic boycott from Russia because the Russians wanted to communicate to the Americans they wouldn't back down from attacking Afghanistan.